Alright, so at this point we are on reflection number 5. And so this reflection card has to do with the topic of multiplicity of languages. And so on the African continent, there's over 2,000 languages that are spoken. And when we talk about mother tongue and development of mother tongue, oftentimes it's very easy to imagine that that is entirely an academic argument that really has no realistic context whatsoever. And then, if you think about all the different mother tongues on the globe, certainly it doesn't seem practical at all. So when thinking about this concept, one thing that I usually think about has to do with the fact that our human body contains over 200 types of cells. Those different types of cells are assembled into different organs, and all of those organs have to work together for the functioning of the human body. Humans are made of thyroids and pancreas and liver and kidneys and muscles, all of which are very different types of cells, right? However, all of those cells have to work together in order for the body to be healthy and to function and continue living. And so in that environment, the diversity is not a problem. In fact, it becomes an asset because when you consider the human body, the human is much more evolved than many single-celled organisms like the paramecium, for example. I mean, I'm not saying the paramecium is bad or that I'm not trying to make fun of it. I think what I'm trying to say is that we are a little bit more evolved than the paramecium, and some of that has to do with the fact that we are multicellular organisms, aren't we? And so the point that I would like to communicate is that diversity of languages doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. What we can do is simply acknowledge that all of these languages exist and that all of these languages hold very specific cultural components, and then we can decide to develop these languages so that everyone who speaks them has the same amount of access to information and knowledge and understanding. And I think that this is an important nuance and an important point. Okay, our next reflection is, number 5b. Okay, there's a number 5b. So in this reflection, I want to acknowledge that on the African continent and in many countries on the African continent, usually there's a history of tribalism. And this means that certain ethnic groups historically have been prioritized over others and have led to quite a bit of contention and quite a bit of erasure. So some tribal groups will kill the other type, or they will diminish or denigrate the other type or the other different ethnic groups. And so there is again a hierarchy. And so many children have grown up seeing this, and many youth have seen this in their parents and in their adults and in the world around them, and they decide they don't want to associate at all with mother tongues because of the division that is caused. Furthermore, when you come to the diaspora, there is sometimes this concern about assimilation. Many parents don't want their children to learn their mother tongue because they want them to assimilate into the country that they have moved to. And this is entirely reasonable, right? When you immigrate, you want to assimilate and you want to find a way to contribute to your new home. And so it is entirely reasonable that parents want their children to assimilate and they don't want them to deal with their mother tongue, which does not have a very direct economic benefit, nor does it have a particular upward mobility opportunity or incentive. And so in many instances, people decide that it is simply not worth the effort and the time. Interestingly, the media company Africa No Filter recently conducted a study where they surveyed 70 youth between the ages of 18 and 28. And when they asked these youth about how they considered African identity to be for them, what they found is that these youth talked about the importance of language as a key marker of identity. And so I think this reflection is just to say that, again, the topic of mother tongues is very complicated and nuanced, but it does seem that mother tongues and understanding the language of where you were born and where your parents were born still is an important marker of identity, and it is an important marker of where you fit in and where you belong. And because this study is conducted by people who grew up in the diaspora, who are first-generation immigrants and beyond, this tells you that this is actually more apparent when you are farther away from home. And so that's an interesting piece of data and an interesting thing to know and understand. I've linked the study below so that you can read up more about it.